What's going on, everyone? We are back with another episode of our podcast. We're the Football Tailgaters, and we talk everything about the NFL. As usual, I have here with me Yams, the Jets fan, Andy, the unbiased football fan, and myself, Aaron, the Cowboys fan, who... Woohoo! Cowboys! Go Cowboys! On to the next round! That was a fun Monday night beating Tom Brady.
He's excited.
Sound like Chucky.
Yeah, I think you're just jealous.
Yeah, you're just jealous because certain things
you don't even
happen
have a
to the
quarterback.
Jets. So let's go over real quick what our topics for today will be. We're gonna go over Lamar Jackson and if he quit on his team because of his controversial injury and how he's been handling it. Didn't participate in the playoffs at all because he's recovering. We'll also go over Tom Brady retiring after if he'll retire after what happened against the Cowboys, the absolute disaster. Just kidding. He's been struggling ever since. Oh my God! Just left the coach who retired. What was his name?
Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians. There you go. Red face guy. That's how I remember him. He retired, and then Todd Bowles took over. And these last years with Todd Bowles have not been very good with Tom Brady. So we're gonna ask the question: is he gonna retire after this? We don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll go to another team, and then we'll go over our divisional round game previews with 4 exciting games on Saturday and Sunday. We got the Giants, Eagles, Cowboys, 49ers, Bengals, Bills, Chiefs, Jaguars, and so on. So let's start with Lamar Jackson. Very controversial stuff here with his injury and the way he's been kind of handling it. He's been on the spotlight because, it looks like it's either he's being very careful with the way he's recovering and he doesn't want to risk it. And, you got this controversy with his contract, right? So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you guys think? Is Lamar Jackson quitting on his team?
Originally I didn't think he was quitting on the team. I really did genuinely think he was recovering from his knee. But I did find it a little suspicious that he didn't make the travel to the team for the playoffs. Why wasn't he on the sidelines? He was there before the playoffs. I do think he's trying to do some leverage so that, he's able to get his contract at the end, and he might be just taking care of his body.
100%. I've been saying this for the whole season almost, that he is just looking out for himself and regarding this contract. I don't blame him. I mean, of course, you want him to get paid. But the problem is that he doesn't have an agent, so he's doing the negotiations himself, and he wants Deshaun Watson money, just like how the Browns just paid him, like all guaranteed, like $240 million. That's not going to happen again. The teams are not going to provide that high of an amount, especially if he gets injured almost every single year. He's a great player. I have no doubt about that. And he needs to stay in the Ravens if they want to continue to compete in the AFC, because the AFC is stacked with talent with Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, and so on. So I don't blame him. But as a fan, if you were a fan of the Baltimore Ravens, you do get frustrated that it's not about the team. Even Michael Vick was frustrated with him. He said, you got to go and play. So it is what it is.
I think this is more of a modern time thing we're seeing with Lamar Jackson and other players. We're seeing players having more leverage, having more power. They want to make sure they get paid the right amount that they think they should get paid. They want to take care of their bodies properly, so they're taking their time with recovery. So not every player is like that, but players who actually they think they care about their bodies and whatnot, and they don't want to re-injure whatever it was that they had before. I don't think he's quitting on his team, but it can look like that for sure, and I don't blame anyone.
Why do you say he's not quitting on his team if he's not going to play? Basically, he's saying, for myself, I need to get paid. I don't want to get injured more than I am, because they're saying like there's some bruising involved in his bones and everything. And if it's a playoff game and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, I mean, you're going to play regardless. There's so many players that I can think of. Well, I'm not going to exaggerate. There's a few players that come to my mind right off the bat that actually will play because they want to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Well, now that you're on that, players, there was someone who tweeted or came on a podcast. I'm not too sure where he said it, but it was Michael Vick.
It was Michael Vick.
Michael Vick
yeah.
said, "Put a brace on it and get out there." That there's been plenty of players. I think he said it. There's been plenty of players that were able to play with such an injury, or even so with broken ribs. They just patch it up and get out there. So yeah.
Yeah, Michael Vick, I believe he said he had like a meniscus issue with his knee, and he played that way the whole season. I remember Drew Brees also had broken ribs, and this was during the regular season, and he went out there to play. Granted, these guys will probably got paid, and Lamar Jackson hasn't gotten paid, but it's not like the Ravens haven't offered him any money. They did, a really good contract, but he wants Deshaun Watson money, probably 4 years instead of 5, and I guess the NFL is business. So as if I'm the team, the Baltimore Ravens, I'm not gonna do the stupidity that the Cleveland Browns did and give all that money to the quarterback. You're setting yourself up to be stuck in this big time contract for 4 years, and you're not going to be able to figure out on how to compete against the other teams. It is a great talent, but I don't think I would pay him that much.
Now, I would say it's more like a little bit of he quit on the front office rather than the team themselves, because obviously I think like he cares about his team, but it's the, I wouldn't say greed, but it's the money getting in the way. It's this money talk and making sure he's healthy, and he just doesn't want to risk it. Yeah, sure, other players did risk having injuries and going out there still playing. He doesn't want to do that.
But I hear you that you're saying that he's not quitting on the team. Of course, he's not going to say, you know what, I don't care about you guys. Of course, I don't think that he feels that way. But it is, and then you said it's not greed, but it is greed because he wants to get paid, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that he wants to get paid, but this is the playoffs time, and this is to go and win a Super Bowl. So it just shows you that that it's not 100% on the game. It's more about him getting paid at this point. So if you're a teammate of his, like, you understand that he wants to get paid, but you're like leaving us behind. We played with you to get to that goal to win the Super Bowl, or we're just playing just to play, basically, just so we can get paid and go home, and that's it.
Wasn't there like a report that he didn't even fly to the game?
Yeah, he didn't even fly to the game. That's insane.
That's what I just said.
Oh,
whoops.
That's just how much you guys are listening.
No,
okay.
We'll say it with more emphasis.
Yeah, that's what I said. Before I kind of believed him that he was injured and he really was taking care of his body, but now that he didn't fly with the team for the playoffs. He'd done it before.
Yeah.
And now with the playoffs, something's going on. Obviously, they found out that maybe he's probably taking care of his body, not wanting to come out and play. Yeah. And then the fact that he even had to go on Twitter to defend himself.
Yeah,
that's also a red flag.
Exactly.
So little by little, I started to believe maybe he is taking care of his body for the contract or his future contract or whatever his future team is. I doubt it's going to be with the Ravens.
Well, supposedly there was a report that came out, I believe today, that the Ravens said that they want Lamar Jackson. They're not thinking of trading him. Yeah. I mean, take that as with a grain of salt if you want. I mean, everything has a price. If the Miami Dolphins come over and say, here's 3 first-round picks and we'll pay him, they'll probably take it. I mean, it's 3 first-round picks. You never know. But at this point, that's what the Ravens have said. It's going to be a hardcore negotiations. It'll be really interesting. He is a big-time talent. Out of the quarterbacks that are going to be available, which on the top of my mind, it's Derek Carr, Garoppolo, and Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Isn't Tom Brady going to be available?
Well, that's another topic that we're going to discuss because we don't even know if he's going to return, or he stays with Tampa or not. I mean, it's not available. I know he might be retiring.
It's a good time to shift over to that question now. Tom Brady, he struggled against the Cowboys. Threw for a lot of times. I think it was like 66 times, 35 for 66, 351 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He didn't have his best game. He went out with a complete dud, and it looks like he might be out of there, whether it's retiring or being with a different team. But I'm almost certain he's gonna be out of Tampa. So is Tom Brady retiring? Is he moving on to a different team after struggling with the Buccaneers for the last 2 years? What do you guys think?
So my short answer is no, he is not retiring. And no, I don't think he's returning back to Tampa. Tampa needs a lot of work, and the team's not ready for him. It's, well, no longer ready for him, and they put up a stinker against the Cowboys. I have been saying this from the early times of this podcast that he's going to be with, or going to end up with, the Raiders. I can already see him going to the Raiders, back with Josh McDaniels. Next year, Allegiant's having their Super Bowl, and he's going to go to the Raiders, and they're possibly going to go to the Super Bowl. And he's going to be, again, that Super Bowl team that takes his team to the Super Bowl and hosts it at the same time, just like he did in Tampa Bay.
I agree that he's going to be coming back. I don't think he's going to be retiring. And I do also agree that he's going to be moving away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they do have their issues over there, even though they do have some players there. But the coaching, it's not working well. They fired their offensive coordinator. So based on his age, he needs to be in a place that it's already like settled and ready to win. Just like how Tampa Bay was when Bruce Arians was there. So you're saying that he's going to go to the Raiders. I think he's going to go to the 49ers because he wants to be able to compete for that Super Bowl. If he goes to the Raiders, he has to compete against Herbert, against Patrick Mahomes, against Josh Allen, against Burrow. Over here in the NFC, there's still teams still trying to figure things out to be able to be contenders. And we can honestly say this year for the NFC, it hasn't been that great. So I'm thinking he's going to go to the 49ers. Great coach, a great team, and they're ready to win. And it was his favorite team when he was a kid, so that's a plus.
You got to consider also what's going on around him outside of football and what he thinks is his body, if it's even in the right state to even continue.
What are you talking about? He's doing the TB12 regimen. He's all good, man.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't rule out his retirement out of, being one of his options. I definitely think it's on the table right now, especially after the weirdest year I think he had this year with, just stuff off the field and on the field. And part of me says like, oh, maybe he just wants to call it quits there and it's just too much. But then also I think his type of mentality is like, I don't want to go out like this. This is not how I want to retire. And I think he should have retired after he won that Super Bowl, but that's just my opinion. He wants more. He thinks he can do more, and that's just his mentality. He's very passionate about his game, and he can still do it, but he, like you guys said, he needs a team that's ready to go, and I think that's the 49ers over the Raiders, because one's comfortably sitting in the playoffs here compared to the Raiders, who are not. So that's just one big point that I'm just going to say is one team is clearly playoff ready compared to the Raiders, who are not so much.
Of
That's
course.
my opinion.
No, yeah. I mean, if he goes to the Raiders in his division, you have Mahomes, you have Herbert.
Yeah, that's just another thing too.
I mean, yeah.
No, I wouldn't go there.
It's hardcore. I know that Russell Wilson didn't have the best year, but there's reports that Sean Payton is very interested in the Denver Broncos. So I believe, and I could be 100% wrong here, that just Russell Wilson just had an off year with Coach Hackett. So next year he should be able to bounce back. And if it's with Sean Payton, I believe he's going to bounce back even bigger. And why wouldn't you go to the 49ers? To my opinion, they're the best team in the NFC. I know that a lot of people have the Eagles
at the division
up there.
too.
For the 49ers?
Yeah, and the Seahawks are probably the best team right now. You got the Rams struggling. You got Cardinals struggling.
Yeah, for sure. The Cardinals, they're just a mess of an organization. The Seahawks, they have Geno Smith, and they did a really good job there. But it's going to take some time to build that team. The Rams, they really need to figure things out because they have they don't have that much cap space, and the players, they're going to have to get some trades there because they don't have even that many picks there. So yeah, because of that, just go with the 49ers. I mean, and then Brock Purdy, if he continues to play how he is, I mean, sitting down in the bench and learning from Tom Brady, I mean, that's even putting in place for your future. Yeah, no,
for the whole organization.
Exactly.
Tom Brady retires, and look, I'm still set with other quarterbacks here.
Well, there's a lot of factors for Tom Brady too. Like you mentioned, outside of football, it's going to take a lot, and he might even consider staying in Tampa Bay if he doesn't retire, because that's where his family's at. That Gisele Bündchen, is in Miami. The kids are in Miami, and Tampa Bay from Miami, I don't know, it's what?
Oh, like 4 hours.
4 hours, 3 hours from. So, I mean, for him, it makes sense to be close to his family. So, I don't know. Tampa Bay is probably an option for me. If not, it's probably the Raiders. I don't agree that he's going to the 49ers, but we can make a bet on it if you like.
Oh.
Well, what is the point of going to the Raiders? I know they have a good good players there, but you also need a good coach. And Shanahan has showed that he's a great coach, not just a good coach, a great coach, because he's winning with different quarterbacks all the time and just almost getting there. And he has gone to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, so he knows how to win. So if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, I think you have, just looking at percentages, you just have a bigger percentage chance with the 49ers.
And I think the 49ers front office has shown better capabilities than the Raiders. The Raiders have done plenty of questionable things, especially in the draft.
Yeah.
And you can congratulate them for their big move with Devontae Adams. That's just the Green Bay Packers being stupid. It's nothing, they just got lucky. But now they're getting rid of Derek Carr, and if he doesn't get traded, he will be let go. So that's a tough situation for the Raiders that they're in, and they would love Tom Brady, but who knows? Maybe the money is a factor, and that'll be maybe one of the reasons he goes to the Raiders. But why don't we shift on over to the divisional rounds for this upcoming weekend with 4 exciting games. Andy, why don't you take this over?
Yeah, we only have 4 more games in this divisional round. On Saturday, we have 2 games, one AFC and one NFC. So for the first game on Saturday, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Kansas City Chiefs. Who you guys got?
I have Herbert taking this one. Well, I'm sorry, not Herbert. Stupid Herbert. Still traumatizing me. Kansas. This one's going to be taken by Kansas. I don't think the Jaguars will be able to do anything against this team. They won't be able to score, but I think the one who's going to end up sealing the deal is Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter against a okay kind of defense in Jaguars.
Oh, man. The Jaguars against the Chiefs. I'm going to pick the Chiefs because they just already have the experience and the talent there to get there. They already know how to get this going. They had 2 weeks to prepare. Not exactly for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they had already 2 weeks because of the bye week. So I'm going to pick the Chiefs. It can be a pretty close game because the Chiefs have been struggling with teams such as the Colts and the Texans. But just because of the experience, I'm going to take the Chiefs.
Yeah, Mahomes is the X factor too. Yeah, it's just plain and simple. It's Mahomes. He's the face of this team, and he will be the reason why they pull such things, like they create these great plays that will get them ahead and create these miracles out of nowhere. But Jacksonville, not to discredit them, they did a really good job against the Chargers, and I think they won't go down easily against the Chiefs. It's going to be an exciting game to watch, but I'll take the Chiefs.
Next up's big time Saturday divisional playoff game, the New York Giants against the Philadelphia Eagles. Who you guys got?
I keep saying this. I'm sorry to all the Giants fans, and I keep blowing up in my face. I still think they're flukes. Minnesota's a bigger fluke. And I think Giants are still a fluke. I'm sorry. Eagles take this one. Giants don't have a chance on this one.
Well, I'm going to take credit because I told you guys last week that the Giants would beat the Vikings. And they just showed that they are capable of beating the Vikings. And I think they can even beat the Eagles. Coach Dable is doing a great job. He put the defense how they needed to be against the Vikings, and even though they don't have that many weapons, they are really good to go. But I do think in this case, the Philadelphia Eagles are gonna be winning this week, but it's not gonna be that close. I mean, it's gonna be close. I'm sorry.
What?
It's gonna be close. So I do pick the Eagles. They just have too much. Their game plan and their strategy is going to be running over the Giants.
It's a divisional rival. It's going to be a great game to watch. No one thought 3 of the 4 NFC East teams were going to be in the divisional round. Nobody thought that. Not even us.
I know, it's crazy.
We were all saying the NFC least. Now it's the NFC beast. So it's crazy things we're seeing here. That's how you know that's the NFL, and you can never know what happens in that league. It's like I said, it's going to be a close one. I don't see the Giants going down easily. I think the Eagles should be prepared, and I think they are kind of nervous, as the Giants, of course, because they're the underdogs. I wouldn't count their win against the Vikings a complete fluke because that offense for the Vikings is good. It's just that defense is just awful, like I said in the other podcast. Man, it's tough. It's real tough. But just because I like to go the safe route, I will say the Eagles will win this in a close matchup, and I will say that Jalen Hurts will play as an X factor here, as kind of the separation of, or kind of the reasoning why they win.
Man, it's gonna be a really hardcore game, especially because it's a divisional game. So these teams know each other. I don't know who's going to pull it off in the end. It's going to be really close. But yeah, I still think the Eagles, honestly. It really depends how of a factor Hurts is going to be, because he has been hurt. Jalen Hurts has been hurt. So if he can't run, then this team they can't win. Honestly,
right.
He's the X factor,
right?
And they need to roll with Jalen Hurts like the Eagles for the next years, the following years. Like they have, like, I don't know, like 3-4 years with this guy, because in my opinion, sustainable. You can't have the quarterback running so much and just be okay all the way to the Super Bowl. We saw it with Jalen Hurts, as he's been injured. Saw it with Justin Fields, he's been injured. Dak Prescott got injured, even though it was just his hand. But I just don't think that quarterbacks that are just keep running a lot is sustainable. So it's all about how Jalen Hurts, how healthy he is, actually.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, we have the Cincinnati Bengals against the Buffalo Bills. Who you guys got?
This one's a tough one for me. I don't know. Buffalo almost gave it to Miami. I know it's a divisional game and those things get close. But Buffalo has an issue, and I don't know what it is. Sometimes they just lose out in games, or they can't close out, or they keep it close. They keep it too close sometimes. And I feel like maybe the Cincinnati Bengals are going to capitalize on and maybe just take this one.
Mm-hmm. So you picking the Bengals?
Yes.
Yeah, I picked the Bengals too, honestly.
Wow.
The Buffalo Bills, they were my Super Bowl pick, but I've just not been liking what I'm seeing, honestly. The running game is not there. The quarterback is their running game, just like the Philadelphia Eagles. And even though they do have like Stephon Diggs, but then also their Gabe Davis, their other wide receivers, like sometimes he just disappears. So the defense there for the Buffalo Bills, they need to be upgraded because they're not as good as they should be. The corners are amazing, I'll give them that, but they do need to provide more pressure. And I think Burrow, with his weapons, they're just gonna figure out. It's just a good systematic team that they're gonna actually get the win here, but it's gonna be close.
No, I completely agree, especially what we saw from both teams with Bengals kind of barely surviving against the Ravens without Lamar Jackson here. I mean, I think it should have been a bigger margin of separation here with the score, but the Bengals still got, some issues to fix. And then with the Bills, they got lucky with Mike McDaniel just pulling some rookie moves with the clock management, just really bad, handled it just not good at all. 34-31. The Bills barely won that one. So I'm going to agree with you guys with the Bengals here. I think they have better firepower in the offense. They're a lot more exciting to watch. I think Joe Burrow, he's great at passing the ball, first of all. And with shifting the point to Josh Allen over here, I think the problem with the Bills in the past time has been putting the game on Josh Allen's shoulders, and he can't always pull through with that. You got to put him in a good position to win. He's a great quarterback. He's one of the best ones in the league, but you got to put him in good spots, as you kind of have to with a lot more quarterbacks. But with this guy, you got to be careful with how you handle your game plan. So I'll take the Bengals.
Well, surprised that we all three are picking the Bengals here. I know Buffalo is favored, but
yeah, underdog here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on, and this is probably the biggest game of the weekend here. It is. Don't tell me it's not. Don't tell me it's not. It's the networks are talking about it way too much.
Barf.
As always.
We have the Dallas Cowboys against the San Francisco 49ers. Who you guys taking?
This is stupid. If anyone's picking up the Cowboys, it's pretty stupid. It's two great defenses, okay? I'll give you that. But this is just a Cowboys type of game where they just lose because they're doing dumb decisions. And I have the confidence in Kyle Shanahan to outsmart the Cowboys head coach. And also, we're going to see the old Dak Prescott back. I was waiting for that interception against the Tampa Bay. It didn't happen because that defense sucks, but it's going to happen this next game. Mark my words. Put your prop bets.
Okay. Even if he gets an interception, I don't. It might happen, but I don't think it'll be end. Honestly, this particular game, it's going to be Dan Quinn against Shanahan, because Dan Quinn is going to do so many different looks against Purdy. Who has Purdy actually played? He has played at defenses such as the Seahawks, not a great defense. Arizona, not a great defense. Tampa Bay, not a great defense. Miami, not a great defense. I believe this Dallas Cowboys is the biggest defense that he's actually going to be playing against. I'm not saying that Dallas Cowboys have the most elite defense, but at least they do have some weapons there. And if the Cowboys can actually run the ball well and even Dak Prescott use his legs more, I think they can actually take this one. So it's going to be a pretty close game, low-scoring game. Vegas, they actually had it as a 3-point differential here, so they know that it's not going to be such a big-time difference. It's going to be they're just going to be battling it out. So I'm going to take the underdog here with the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, my gosh. You kind of just took the words out of my mouth here. This is exactly what it is. It's Dan Quinn taking advantage of the inexperience of Brock Purdy and making sure Kyle Shanahan needs to make sure he can protect Brock Purdy and not make him look horrible. He needs to play good. Both quarterbacks on these teams played great in each of their games. They played great, right? And they both face defenses that are not horrible. The Seahawks defense is actually kind of good, but they're just very young. And Tampa Bay doesn't have a horrible defense. I think there's defenses in this league right now, or I guess in this divisional round, that are kind of just about the same, if not, a little bit worse. But it's going to be a close game. Dak Prescott needs to stay in that same rhythm. He needs that momentum from the last game, and they need to expose the Mr. Irrelevant, or I guess Mr. Relevant, whatever you want to call him. That's going to be the difference maker here, and this is why you got Dan Quinn. This is why you got Dan Quinn to get to these types of games and win them. So I think the Cowboys have this one. It's
going to be really interesting because Kyle Shanahan and Dan Quinn go way back, right? They were on the same team when they played
the
Patriots. That famous game that they lost.
Yeah, 28-3.
28-3.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn was the head coach. Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator. So they both hand in hand lost that game. If you will, I don't know who was the defensive coordinator for that, who was calling the shots. But if it is Dan Quinn, well, he lost the game for them. He lost the Super Bowl game. So we'll see. We'll see which coach outsmarts who. And right now, Kyle Shanahan still is a head coach for the 49ers for the past 2018. It's how long he's been the head coach. So he clearly knows what he's doing as a head coach. So it is going to be interesting. But I do think that maybe Dan Quinn, this is where it ends for him. Sorry, Cowboy fans.
I think for that comparison that you said, that they were both in the Atlanta game against the Patriots, and you were blaming it on Dan Quinn.
I said I don't know who was calling the shots.
Well, regardless, he's the head coach, so he does deserve some blame on it too.
Sure.
But, statistically, supposedly there was a report that if they ran every single play, they would actually win the game. If they started the second half, they were on top 28-3. If they ran every single down, they would win the game. Supposedly, that statistic is out there. So if Kyle Shanahan knew that, he could also just be running the ball, and he didn't know that statistic, and they would have just won the game. But it just didn't happen. Also, Dan Quinn, because he's the head coach. So I put the blame on both of them. Now, if I was Dan Quinn against the 49ers, what I would do is I would try my best to take away their number one weapon here, which is McCaffrey. He's the one that can catch the ball, run the ball. So if you take him away, you're going to make Purdy actually throw the ball. So you're going to make him throw against the safeties, which the Cowboys have really good safeties, I'm thinking. Well, that's just my opinion. They have they have Diggs in the corner. The other corner, they've been moving him around because Brown got injured, and they seem still not to figure out, but they're moving some pieces around.
That's hurting them. That's hurting them. That's kind of affecting them. And that's a factor that I think it's going to be also going into this game too.
What do you mean, the other side, the other corner?
Yeah, Brown being out, it's hurt them.
It's hurt them, but I think Dan Quinn has done a good job on substituting.
Oh, no, yeah. Same thing with the defensive line. Whenever there's an injury down there.
Yeah, the rookie Bland, he's been like going
amazing.
in it. He's been intercepting balls. I know that he doesn't play every single down, but he's been doing pretty well. Joseph, he hasn't been doing well, so they haven't played him as much. They did get Xavier Rhodes, if I'm not mistaken. That's a veteran cornerback as well. So they've been moving around pieces. So I do give a lot of my my trust on Dan Quinn to figuring this out. What I'm most nervous about, if you were a Cowboy fan, is Deebo Samuel, because if you can take off McCaffrey, you still have to worry about Deebo Samuel, and he's actually a monster with running the ball as well.
You have to worry about Deebo. You have to worry about McCaffrey. You have to worry about Ayuk. You have to worry about Kittle. These are all weapons that are all used equally. It's not like he has a player where he says this is 89% of the reps go to this player. That's what Kyle Shanahan does. And also another thing I want to point out is the offensive linemen. I don't know which one's better. I think Brock Purdy's been doing so well because that linemen have been holding up.
I think they have the best left tackle in all of football with Trent Williams. I mean, some people can say it's Lane Johnson from the Eagles, but even if those two are the top left tackles of all the league. So yeah.
This is going to be the toughest matchup for that lineup, though. For that O-line, toughest matchup here. That defensive line that the Cowboys have, it's one of the best ones right now.
Well, it's going to be Micah Parsons against Trent Williams, so that's going to be something to watch, and it's going to put a little bit more pressure on the other offensive linemen.
Well, it depends on the way they use Parsons.
That's true.
It depends, because he might just shoot the gap a lot instead of going around the edge, but we'll see how they use him. I don't know. They know the weaknesses better than we do, right? So it's going to be a big factor. Again, it always goes down to the defense of the Cowboys again, and they just have to make sure that the offense does its part and scores points.
Yeah.
That whole debacle with Brett Maher, I like in the moment I was like, they got to kick this guy out after the game. Like, there's no way. He literally made history. Missing so many extra points.
Supposedly in practices this week, he made 6 for 6. So I don't know if it was just a fluke or anything. I know, but they also got another kicker just in case. So I guess if he starts missing, they're just gonna substitute him.
Which is
so
great.
Scripted, you guys. Okay, so
Stop with the scripted.
I was in Vegas.
How can he be? How can it be?
I don't
scripted?
care. I was in Vegas. The over under was 40.
They were saying 45? The over under, yeah.
Yeah, 45 and a half. 45 and a half.
I understand.
What was the score?
I don't know.
Whatever it was, the total amount turned out to be 45. Under. It was off by a half point.
Okay, but he missed 4. He missed 4.
It should have gone over.
And did you see how close? How close?
How professional can miss it by an inch? I don't care.
Oh my gosh! There's so many kickers out there in the NFL that miss and make it. And
leave me with my conspiracy. It's true. It is scripted. Vegas is like, you know what? We're not gonna let another game go over 6 for. Or how many games he played on the weekend? Whatever. They weren't going to go undefeated on the whole over thing, okay?
Really? The way that he was missing those kicks, it's impossible to call it, in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. They were super close.
There's no way.
If there was one that was basically... He missed 3 his entire season with the Cowboys and missed 4? Come on.
But by that,
kickers have that all the time.
I don't care by a hair. A professional knows how to miss and a professional knows how to make it.
I guess he's the best kicker in all of the NFL then. Who has that accuracy?
Have those types of... They have their phases where they just start absolutely crapping the bed. We've seen this over and over. When Dan Bailey, he was amazing. And then he just had his phase where he was just awful. And he just went to the Vikings.
Nick Foles too?
Nick Foles. He was awful, and then he had a really good phase. It's just a hit or miss with these kickers. And he had a really bad off day. And good thing they didn't cut him, because I don't think he deserves to be cut, because he's bailed them out multiple times.
Yeah, he has.
So you're telling
multiple
me
times.
if it's scripted, this means that this kicker is involved, that Vegas called him and say, hey, man, you got to miss these. And we're going to give you $10 million under the table or something. I mean, really? Do you know how many people need to be involved for this to be scripted?
You can see the little flags on the field goal, the air. There was zero impact for that.
There was air.
No, it was not air. No, there
well,
wasn't.
can I put it in the
God.
record here that you feel that it's scripted because you had money on betting.
Wow.
You had money on betting, and because it didn't happen for you. That's why you got more upset.
Okay, I didn't have money betting on it, okay? I was betting for a friend.
But still, it's
not
still
on that
happened.
game.
Okay, but
I
it
did
still
have Dak
happened.
Prescott in my prop to throw an interception. That one's fine. But the kicking thing, that really bugs me.
I can go into you with this conspiracy theory when it comes to officials calling a crazy interference
let's go into
holding
the
or
official.
something.
There was one kick that looked like it could have been argued that it would have been in.
No, because they didn't talk about it at all. And there would be so many people saying that one would have gone in or anything. So no,
It's
I
weird.
don't.
It's just weird. Weird.
Well,
There was one where it was literally just half an inch over and it's in because it went over the post.
Yeah, I think that's the one that Yams is talking about, and I agree.
Yeah.
It's a hair. So are you kidding me? Like, what an amazing kicker to be in on it and just missing almost all of them by 1 inch or a foot or a hair. Like, seriously.
That's the one where I go like that. It can't be. But I wanted to let you guys know real quick that every single quarterback in this divisional playoff, I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's been kind of talked about pretty often here this like recent couple of days. But every single quarterback still alive in the playoffs right now is under 30. And the oldest one is Dak Prescott with 29 years old.
Yeah, that's weird.
Crazy.
I feel old.
The oldest one is Dak Prescott, 29. And
The new
I think
generation.
I'm the same age as like 2 of those quarterbacks, which is
Trevor Lawrence and Purdy. No?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, right. Now that's a conspiracy theory. No,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, it's the new generation. Yeah. Now, I mean, Tom Brady, if he had a better coach, I think he would have been up there. And Aaron Rodgers, if he worked out with his wide receivers before the season, if he just put in a little bit more effort about the team, then I think he would have been up there too. But it didn't happen. So it is what it is. Yeah, this new generation, it's exciting. They're really good players.
Right.
So, yeah.
Hey, Daniel Jones, though, out of all of them, he's made the biggest turnaround, and he's really underrated with his legs. And I think the Eagles should be terrified of him. He's gonna be. I think he might impact this game coming up.
You know, that's interesting because that's something that I'm going to be watching next season because Dable did a really good job with him to use his legs and use his capable. Because I think he reached the ceiling by what Dable has done. I don't think we're going to see anything extra. Like, we see Mahomes every year, like, oh my God, how can he do that throw? And oh, he did this. And then Josh Allen just breaking tackles and this and that. I think we saw the ceiling with Daniel Jones. So I'm very curious to see how other teams' defensive coordinators are going to scheme against them now that they're going to have more footage against them.
Yep.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think that's all for us right now.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Almost over.
Almost over.
Sadly.
Sad moment.
Sadly.
But
We still got 4 games.
Yeah.
Then it's going to come down to 2, and then it's going to come down to the Super Bowl. But for now, that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you made it all the way to the end, we appreciate it a lot. We hope to see you guys interacting with our social media, which is football_tailgaters on Instagram and TikTok. And then on YouTube, it's Football Tailgaters. Thank you guys again for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.